PHNX Cardinals live on a Tuesday from Studio K, presented by our friends at Circle K. Your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast has arrived. I'm Johnny Venerable, my co-host at Studio K, Mr. Brack, Damon Dog, producer extraordinaire behind the mic. It is ever so important. Become a diehard, go PHNX.com. Like this video. We got some people screwing around with the dislikes, so we are tasking all of you in the chat, like you do every day, to hold the line and hit that like for your boys. Well, yes, how we living.
Somebody took it upon themselves to hit the dislike button over 20 times already for this show. So look, we're not going to sit here and beg, but we see all you out there, already over 60 people and climbing. Just drop a like, help your boys out, your favorite Cardinals podcast. We would appreciate it. I don't know what monster out there wants to just jockey between their Google accounts and hit the dislike button. But it's happened pretty consistently on the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. And let's knock it off.
Yeah, somebody super cool with lots of options doing that across our plethora of quality shows and platforms here. So good luck to that loser. Hello to all of our wonderful people in the chat. We got Jessica, we got YouTube user, we got Ken Weber, we got K2, Eli, Alpha Male, JV, the perfect people that I want to see, along with my co-host, Bo Brock. You had a chance, by the way, we're going to get to this later in the show, to talk to one of my favorites, Dennis Gardeck, today.
Yeah, Dennis Gardeck has had a big offseason, and it's been primarily off the field. I mean, he had a pretty big 2023 campaign where he was one of the primary pass rushers for this team, 6.5 sacks, was one of their more consistent performers, and of course does what he does so well on the special teams side. But got married and just had his first kid. And he's gearing up. He's over at Apex Training Facility and gearing up for what now is 2 weeks away, where the Arizona Cardinals' entire team will report for training camp for the 2024 season. So we got to hear from Gardeck, the Barbarian, and he gave us some good nuggets that we're going to get into here later in the show.
Excited to talk about the pass rush group. Excited to talk, of course, about Sweet Baby Marv to kick off the show. I feel like we've had a little bit of a lull period talking about Marv. And again, he dropped, the Cardinals produced it, I'm guessing, but some fire behind the scenes images, video of him in some like smoke, some fog in his Marv number 18 jersey, which yes, you can't purchase yet. Check that out. We posted it embedded from his Instagram on PHNX Cardinals, and just get you fired up. We're less than now 2 weeks away from the start of training camp, 2 weeks away from Marv's season taking over. And, you know, you and I were reminiscing this morning. There's an article right now out via Sporting News. And if you don't know what Sporting News is, it was a once, I'm not trying to throw shade, but it was the, you know, on par with the Sports Illustrateds of the world, where you would get this hard copy magazine in the mail. We got it at our house, like I think either every week or bi-monthly. And it had some really good insight. And they've since churned back a lot of their content, but they put out an article today, Bo, that I thought was really interesting. You pointed out to me, and it was just really talking about the most important non-quarterbacks for every team. Like, you get one player, you remove the quarterback, that's the biggest piece of the equation, obviously K1 with Arizona, and you look at Arizona and the rest of the landscape in the NFL, who are the most important players to their said teams?
Yeah, it's an kind of a interesting thing to try to go through and figure out, obviously, because, you know, the quarterback position is the most important in all of sports. I mean, you get consistent quarterback play like we saw, you know, in the final 8 games of the season when Kyler Murray returned, or you look in, you know, Los Angeles with the Rams, Baker Mayfield finding himself down in Tampa Bay, his 4th team, and figuring it out and where it can take and elevate, you know, pedestrian to below average rosters. So you take that out of the equation, it becomes, you know, a bit of an interesting just kind of experiment that you're trying to deal with here. And I think I disagree with where the Sporting News went. I know that we had a big kind of, and this is like one-sided. I don't think our friends over at Sporting News, I think they're barely even online. I think they're still, you know, back in the dark ages with print. Probably don't know that we had kind of a
dial-up internet.
There.
They got dial-up internet. They've got AOL online, and they're coming along slowly but surely.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, as long as their mom doesn't get on their phone line and knock them off the internet, they're going to churn out some sports content. And they have Marvin Harrison Jr. as the most important non-quarterback to the Arizona Cardinals, which, look, I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to take this offense to another level. I don't disagree that his importance is pivotal for the Arizona Cardinals, but in no way do I believe that he is the most important non-quarterback for this team in 2024.
Well, let's talk about who we think are the most important non-QBs. But before we get to that, let's look at Sporting News' and Vinny Iyer, who does have a degree from Northwestern, and by all accounts, a good writer for them.
He does do good work. He absolutely does.
Yeah. So Vinny writes, the Cardinals are hoping Harrison is their best first rounder at receiver since Hall of Famer Larry Fitzgerald. Harrison needs to come through big time to lift a fully healthy Kyler Murray in the second-year offense. So not a lot there, but he does outline why he believes Marvin is the guy outside of K1 for the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think he's the most important. I think he has maybe the biggest opportunity to be the most impactful. Like if you look at the end of the season, you're like, oh man, Marv made a huge impact for this team that translated to wins. Like, yeah, absolutely. You could make that case, but I'll come out front right now. Like Paris Johnson Jr. to me at left tackle is a more important player for the Arizona Cardinals than keeping Kyler Murray upright. I think Kyler Murray, without Marvin Harrison Jr., can elevate the likes of Greg Dortch, Michael Wilson, Trey McBride, maybe a Zay Jones, right? Like it's not as good as if you include the 4th overall pick, but it's doable. Whereas if you remove Paris Johnson Jr. from the offensive line, I like Jonah Williams. Jonah Williams can't be your best tackle on the team, right? He's a good number 2. He's a good 1B to your 1A, and that 1A was the 4th overall pick last year, and Paris Johnson Jr., the 6th overall pick after they traded down. So I will start with Paris. For me, is there anybody else top of your mind that you would put in that group?
No, I mean, I kind of hate that we probably could have discussed this beforehand, but I agree with you. I mean, I think it's holding down that franchise left tackle spot post DJ Humphries from here on forward. Like if Paris Johnson Jr. can be in there and really kind of continue to trend the direction that he was at the end of his rookie season and be so consistent, like that's going to be where the Arizona Cardinals can really do what they want to do offensively, establish the run game, put themselves in second, third and manageable, and then let Kyler Murray in this passing attack go to work. Like I agree with you. I mean, what we saw down the stretch where Kyler Murray goes 3-5 should have been 4-4. And we've talked about this so much, but our hero and Matt Prater missed not one, but 2 kicks. I think that Kyler showed last year that he can elevate this passing attack, that he can elevate, this collection of playmakers, from Trey McBride to, Michael Wilson, who I think is poised to make a jump regardless of the addition of Marvin Harrison Jr. and Greg Dortch no longer having to bang over the head of coaching staff that's going to overlook him and get the opportunity to start in the slot and not have to work his way into the starting lineup, way too late in the season. And then what James Conner can do in the running game. And if it's not James Conner, what, the expectations we have for Trey Benson. They just have so many options offensively to where it doesn't discount my excitement, Marvin Harrison Jr. I just think as far as if you were to rank, the level of importance of players, like I think Paris Johnson Jr., to your point, like he's atop the list, not MHJ.
Yeah. And I think, again, looking at the landscape of this offensive line, we're going to talk about it down the line on our team preview. Paris Johnson Jr. is not only the leader of that unit, he's one of the leaders on this team. And I love Marv. I don't expect Marv to be a leader and a captain this year. I think that's too much in terms of lofty expectations. I think Marv's just going to worry about his rookie development and being the best version of number 18 he can be. And I want to stay in the theme, Bo, of captain, because we assume K1 will be a captain. I think Paris Johnson Jr. is going to be a captain. What about the guy that we led the show with yesterday, James Conner? Like I'm not going to sit here and argue that a running back's more important than a wide receiver at their peak, but I'm talking about this year, the landscape, at least to begin 2024. I think James Conner is pretty damn important to this team. And I would say he's more important than Marv in the short term. Yeah. Buffalo, those first few games where you're going to have to grind it out, keep your defense, which is learning and young, off the field. I mean, we've seen it. The Cardinals without James Conner are unwatchable at times offensively. Now, that was coupled with no K1, and they added Trey Benson, and we like Michael Carter Jr., but I think James Conner, you could definitely make a case for. And again, we're including offensive guys mostly because, I love Budda Baker. He does play safety, and the defense as a whole hasn't had the influx of high-end talent that we've seen on the offensive side. Like, save for, Darius Robinson. We're going to talk about BJ Ojulari. Those guys are largely unproven, so they can't be the most important. Whereas even though Marv hasn't played a game yet, like, we're putting him in that category as a special talent. It'd be the same thing if the Cardinals had drafted like Myles Garrett, top 5. And it's like, yeah, he's one of their most important players. So like, Marv's in a category, but I think he is superseded by James Conner and Paris Johnson Jr. And are there any other guys you could make an argument for?
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree that James Conner is a captain on this team, a leader without a shadow of a doubt of this organization. But I think this team proves that it can still do what it wants to do offensively, and especially with the addition of a 3rd-round pick and Trey Benson. Life without James Conner, like, I think you always have to account for that. But like, are you going to get 5 yards per carry? Or are you going to get, how rock solid he is in the red zone? You'll probably see a fall off there. But like, I don't have James Conner probably in my top 5 as far as.
Come on.
I don't. I mean, and that's probably an indictment on just where the position is and why the position was like holding a summit for itself, 2 off seasons ago, right? Where they got on a conference call and say, hey, what's going on? Guys are not getting what they deserve pay wise. But like, I think that the Cardinals identified Conner's successor and somebody that is a solid backup and can do some similar things, and that they can continue to do what they want to do with them. But if Paris Johnson Jr., God forbid, is out, like, you're going to have to lean on either Calvin Beachum or some unknowns at the tackle position, which is scary. Yeah. And then like you do get into some unproven guys. I mean, I think we saw what this defense looks like without Kazir White, and there was a big drop off, even though that's not a premium position. And I think somebody we might talk about a little bit because of his off the field stuff, but like Sean Murphy Bunting in the cornerback spot, like, he's going to be very important for this secondary this year. We saw Budda Baker miss some time last year, and like, I don't think you saw like an extreme drop off defensively, so I'm not going to look that way. And then like, I think we can already say it, even though he's not proven, BJ Ojulari has to be kind of a dog in this pass rush.
I'm going to push back on the James Conner piece slightly. And again, like, my argument probably is not going to age very well, because I think this team they're just much more suited to run the football in 2024 sans James Conner. But they were borderline unwatchable last year in the games that he missed. So he went out against
undrafted rookie free agent.
Well, yeah, and they didn't put themselves in good position. But he left the game against Cincinnati. He returned against Atlanta with K1. They won that game. Mm-hmm. In the games that he missed, they scored 9 points, 10 points, 24 against Baltimore, which most of that, if you watch that game, were in garbage time, and 0 points against the Cleveland Browns. Like, it was unequivocally their worst offensive stretch in large part.
Who are the quarterbacks in those
games? Who are
they
playing? Yeah, I get that.
Who are the quarterbacks? Can you please tell me who the quarterbacks
Joshua Dobbs and Clayton Tune.
That's
However, right. They were a good running team before that, and they were a good running team after that. So again, I have myself undersold James Conner for too long, and then I watched this team on Sundays with him versus without him, and there's a big difference, even with K1. So, but that's fine. We can have our cake and eat it too there. I will say, for this year and this year alone, Budda Baker, to me, what are we going to get from number 3 and what I think is his swan song with this team? And is he going to go out and have a throwback year? If I get vintage Budda Baker in his late 20s, where he said he wasn't healthy last year, in year 2 under Jonathan Gannon, and it's an all-pro caliber season, and the guy who's leading your defense, albeit in your back 7, that is more important than Marvin as a rookie. But I don't know if I'm guaranteed to get that. What if I get good, pretty good Budda Baker, but not all-time great Budda Baker? Then I would say no contest. I can't take a safety when I already have a good one in Jalen Thompson over my number 1 receiver. So a lot of it is just we're going to have to let this transpire this fall.
Yeah. Big Mech saying got him, as far as I think your little rant there to support James Conner. We got our guy Ken Weber saying Johnny's spitting facts, and then we got Merv saying James Conner's a big reason why the Cardinals rushing game was dominant when Conner went out there with injury. We tried to put Keontae Ingram and Amari Dermacado. It wasn't the same. Yeah, because of the latter of that, right? Because you put Keontae Ingram, who had no business being in the NFL, and Amari Dermacado, who's an undrafted rookie free agent who didn't even start at TCU, as your backup options. Now you got a 3rd round pick, a big play back in Trey Benson. Like, I think you're better equipped for life without James Conner potentially. That's all I'm saying. And like, you look across the league, and how often do you see it? You have a big time back go down to injury, and somebody just step right in and pick up the slack. I'm not saying it's
waiting for that in Arizona,
but it's not going to be that. It's the scales aren't going to tip as much as they did before. That's what I'm saying right now.
You're 100% right. But again, in the intermediate, in the short term, I think I'm right. November, December, like, I think I need to see Trey Benson play in the preseason. I need to see Trey Benson in training camp, and then we're all going to feel, I think, much better about this situation.
Just turn on the tape of him playing Virginia Tech. You'll feel fine.
Am I playing on front 7 defense for Virginia Tech that game? Anybody go check on Virginia Tech last year as we were watching those draft highlights? He's untouched half the time. And there's Damon at safety coming across, taking a bad angle. No,
Damon would never. How dare you?
ACC football, you know how I dog on it. That Florida State team did go on. I like Trey Benson, and I think James Conner, Trey Benson handoff.
Did anybody else hear that?
What?
Johnny, another person he's identified in this rookie class, along with MHA, hates Trey Benson.
No,
it's disgusting. It's disgusting.
Well, and Tip Ryman, not to mention.
Of course he hates Tip Ryman. It's sad.
We have training camp in 2 weeks. I can't have these clips go without context on social media and then try to walk around that facility on, wherever we're at, and then just get blindsided by a player that's.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I felt today when I was sitting in front of Dennis Gardeck. I'm like, please don't have him mistake me for Johnny. Please don't have him mistake me for Johnny, and all the things he said, all the slander.
Well, that's already happened with who'd that happen with? That happened with
Billy Price.
Billy Price.
Yeah.
Hey
man, you ever have anything to say? Why don't you come say it to my face, basically?
As I hide in my broom closet, 45 minutes away. I love this draft class. Here's where I'm at. Go watch the tape of this show last year. I was banging the drum, start all the rookies, rip the Band-Aid off. People were trying to start street free agents over Michael Wilson. I wasn't having it. But I have watched this team over the course of James Conner's tenure here, and they are, without a doubt, unequivocally, better with him than without him.
Yeah.
And until there is the heir apparent, visible, and capable to pluck and to place as RB1, like this is James Conner's.
Do we have that? Do we have that graphic, Damon, of the rushing attack from last year via Prime Video? We do. Yeah, take a look at this. Most rushing yards last season, the Arizona Cardinals, 2,365. I mean, that's more than the Dolphins. That's more like, what do we know about the Dolphins and the Lions? They love to run the football. The Cardinals are just a few yards. They're 2 first downs away from the San Francisco 49ers.
Lions
are
are
a holding penalty away
too.
from second overall on this list. And what's the Bears had a running quarterback last year.
Yeah.
I mean, really a running back at QB, but did you see his abs on Twitter? Did you see him working out?
Awesome.
Shredded, bro.
I'm starting to buy back in on Justin Fields. I don't know about you guys.
The Dove's posting, do the Steelers have 2 QB1s? No, they don't, Dove. Shut the hell up. Whoever's running that account now.
You got Russell Wilson. He's boxing, and he's looking pretty flabby, to be honest with you. I mean, and then you got Justin Fields, like, look how cut up Justin
doing
Fields
this right here. It's like, when have I ever seen a quarterback do this? And it's just like, that guy's going to throw for 40.
I love it. I think back to the Kenny Powers, like eastbound and down. Is like, I'm not strive to be the best at exercising.
I play real sports. I'm not trying to be the best at exercising. I play real sports. He's talking to the principal that's doing the marathon, the triathlon.
Sorry, Justin. We play real sports. Not trying to be the best at exercising, my guy.
So good conversation. I like
anybody else. Anybody else?
No. Somebody threw out Froldholt.
What about Yelda?
Yeah. Again, like life without Yelda is not a good place to be. But I would hope that given like the coaching acumen and the options that they brought in and the depth that they have now, that they could make it work. Like you could get 80% of Yelda Froldholt. There's no 80% of Marv was
Right.
I'm sorry. There's just not. So, and I've seen this team historically operate without good centers and score points. But yeah, of course you want that. I think unequivocally you put Paris in front of Marvin, and then there's about 2 to 3 other guys that you could make a case for. But then that's probably about it. Probably about it.
Trey McBride.
Yeah, but I looked at his numbers before the show, and I'm like, how many games did he go off and it translated to wins? And how many did he go off just because that he was the only option? So I love Trey.
Kind of along with Kyler, single-handedly won that Atlanta game.
He did. I think Marv's going to win a lot of games by himself, though.
Yeah. What about that Steelers game?
Huge in the Steelers game.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no offense going on. They couldn't establish the run in that game. And they go in the 2-minute drill and just feed Trey McBride. They're just, Trey Day all day. He scores twice basically on that drive, making big play after big play, showing a diverse skill set, like high pointing the ball in the middle of the field. It was unbelievable. I mean, I would add, I think Trey McBride is easily in the top 5.
I mean, the Cardinals' best players outside of their safeties play offense. They have 2 really good safeties, and then they got like 6 to 7 really good offensive players.
Yeah. Rudy asking it, as we brought up Froholdt, and I agree with you. Like, I think Evan Brown gives you a good safety net at the center spot, has experience, and then, he's asking, is Gaines the backup center? And Gaines he's going to fight for a roster spot this year. Like, I haven't seen him yet, like throughout OTAs and mandatory, he still remains in street clothes. He's still getting back from an ACL. And we'll see what, the plan is for Jonathan Gaines coming in as a second-year, 4th-round pick who only got to play during the preseason before the serious knee injury happened.
Yeah, Gaines, I hate like to phrase it like this. He had a window to really make his mark on a rebuilding team, and there were guys who did that. And now, like, he turns around, the O-line depth is night and day from last year. Dirtbike Boy 714-499 super chat. Welcome back, Dirtbike Boy. Sup, boys? Been a while. Can't wait for camp. Letting everyone know I'm your guy. If you get run out of gas, I laugh out loud. Yeah,
good to know. That's good to know, Dirtbike Boy. I'll hit you up next time.
He would have been out there with his gas can.
Yeah, with a can of gas.
It would have happened.
That would have been huge.
They'd come right off the sand dunes in his dirt bike and save the day for our precious Damon dog.
Illadre 199. We can't sleep on Michael Carter either. Yeah, and I think for a game, Michael Carter could do what you needed to from a bell cow back. I do think like the best version of Michael Carter was the usage that we saw last year, Bo, especially like in Philadelphia. Like, does anybody know if you go back, like you see the highlights from that game against Philly? He had 7 touches, 7 carries for 61 yards, nearly 9 yards a pop, and he caught a touchdown pass from Kyler Murray. Like, he was fantastic in Arizona. In no game while with the Cardinals, and I think the most carries he had was 7 in that game. In no game did he average under 4.3 yards per attempt. Like, you were getting almost half a first down every time he touched the football, and that's the role he should have. It's like if James Conner's touching the ball 18 times, Trey Benson's going to get 5. Michael Carter Jr. is going to get 5. Like, I envision that to be kind of the rotation to start. And who knows, maybe Trey reduces James touches to 13 to 15 as the season progresses, and you want to keep James healthy for, God forbid, a playoff run, trying to get to the postseason. But they have a really good stable of runners now. And Michael Carter, there's a reason that they claimed him. He was under contract. He gives them security now.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I think in 2 wins, both against teams from Pennsylvania, in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, he had crucial, and I believe they were both explosive run plays that just completely changed the complexion of a drive and set them up for success and really kind of got that offensive going. You can credit in that Pittsburgh game, Michael Carter and Trey McBride for that team to build an early lead and then just take the air out of the football the rest of the game with James Conner.
I want to ask you this. I probably should holster it, but I want everybody to think about this question, and then I'm going to talk to you about Bet365. But are we overplaying this offense? Is this offense, because we talk about it every day, and it's the sum of the parts from last year. It's got injection of youth and really high-end veterans that they brought in. And I'm like, what happens if this team doesn't perform well offensively? Because I don't know how that's possible based on the trajectory of this group and the talent that you have. So hopefully I'm not setting ourselves up for disappointment, but we're going to holster that. I want everybody to think about that because, again, we can dog on the defense, and certainly the national pundits do, but I feel like I don't see an avenue in which this offense is average or ordinary. And speaking of never ordinary, it's our friends at Bet365 with the bonus code PHNX 365 at sign up. If you aren't familiar with Bet365, they've got 90 million users worldwide, as well as 780,000 events every single year across the landscape. NBA, NFL, NHL, Major League Baseball, and more. They have pioneered live in-game betting, which is a favorite of mine, and they offer the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 different sports. Download the app now. Use that bonus code PHNX365. And there's two specific offers, one of which you can choose. So you decide what better works for you. Bet a mere $5 or more and get $150 back in bonus bets. Love that. Have used it myself. Or if you're looking for a safety net, use the first bet safety net offer by placing a bet up to $1,000. And if your qualifying bet loses, you receive a matched refund in bonus bets by our friends at 365. We're so fired up to partner with them at Bet365. And right now, utilize that same game parlay. Plus, I can't wait for the NFL season, same game parlays on Saturdays, on NFL Sundays. But you got to download the Bet365 app. And you got to use the bonus code, the promo code PHNX365. You got to be 21 years and up and physically located to use the app here in Arizona. If you were someone you know has a gambling problem and want help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEPS or text NEXT STEP to 53342 or visit problemgambling.az.gov.
Yeah, it's elite. And so is Four Peaks Brewery, Arizona's premier microbrewery, going on. It's been going on in Tempe for over 25 years. And it's not like, hey, we brewed up this kilt lifter. It's a really great flagship, and we're just going to call it a day and just kind of rest on that. No, they're always cranking out delicious beer flavors. Like they got the Bad Birdie, which I think is the beer of the summer right now. I don't feel like I'm wrong for saying that. Like the Bad Birdie ale,
it's a fact.
Yeah, it's the juicy golden ale
that holds up in a court of law.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't think anybody can come at me if they do. They're wrong. But look, Four Peaks, it's elite. You got the Wow Wheat, which is the #1 wheat beer in the state of Arizona. It's brewed right here, 8th Street location. The Kilt Lifter, as I mentioned, and all the IPAs you can even imagine, plus the barrel aged beer that they have there, where they went to Kentucky and they invested in these bourbon barrels, and then they aged their beer that they brew on location there, and they're so smooth. They're perfect to match up with the delicious desserts that they have over there at Four Peaks. Also great entrees, great apps. Check it out for yourself. Also follow on your socials at Four Peaks Brew, at Four Peaks Pub. Four Peaks, got to be 21 years or older to enjoy. We also ask that you do it responsibly, not like what Mike Gundy is saying from Oklahoma State, where, you know, I've done it 1,000 times where I've had about 3 or 4 beers and got behind the wheel of a car. Don't do that.
Can I just, how has he not been fired? He is like one of the worst human beings imaginable. He has the most ridiculous hair and the most ridiculous attitude. He does not care about what he says and how he's perceived publicly. That today, like, we laugh about it. That's one of the worst things that you can publicly admit. Hey, I drink and drive all the time. It's cool. I'm sorry, you know, whatever, 1,000 times. Like, bro, get out of here. Suspend that dude's license.
Like, your best player, Ollie Gordon, got popped for DUI, whatever it is in Oklahoma. And the breathalyzer, what's alleged is he had a 0.10.
Oh my God.
Where it's 0.08 is the legal limit basically all around, you know, the United States. And Mike Gundy's there and doing the beer math. He's like, let's see, that would be, you know, what, 3 or 4 beers. I mean, I've done it 1,000 times, and we're paraphrasing, but not far off. And it's just a brutal look.
That's enabling your players to think, you know what, my coach thinks it's okay, I'm going to do it. And it's just like, come on. You can get somebody killed.
Did you hear what he said his punishment would be?
What's that?
He's like, I think, the biggest punishment would be like giving him 50 carries in the first game. I'm not even making that up. That's not like satire or anything like that.
I like this from Merv. Reminds me of someone we used to know here. Yeah, we don't need to talk about that. Love the engagement in the chat. People are loving the math tee I'm rocking right now. My son loves the shirt in part because he just hates math, but it's part of the number 18 collection. This is the kind of math we get down with here at PHNX Sports. It's the 1 + 18 = 6. Some may want to, render that K1 plus the 4th overall pick equals tutties. Coming to a training camp, a preseason, and a regular season near you. I've never needed anything more on top of this t-shirt, which you can get for free right now by becoming a diehard. Go PHNX.com. Training camp's less than 2 weeks away. If you become a diehard right now, get your shirt, get it shipped to you, rock it in Glendale, rock it at training camp. I can't wait. It was one of the most humbling things we did last year is seeing the PHNX Cardinals merch on display at training camp. And this year, I think our collection has just about anything beat in this market, national market, certainly outside of rocking a player jersey, which I'm a big fan of. I know my co-host is not. We would love to see you guys repping some PHNX Sports merch at training camp this year.
Unless you're repurposing old AJ Green 18 jerseys, this is the best way you can rep number 18. It's the 18 collection. Find it right now, phnxlocker.com.
Merv saying, Mike Jarecki said your guys' MHJ merch is hilariously bad because your math is off. Who wants to tell him? That's a chef's kiss right there. The chef's kiss.
Is that real? Can we confirm that?
We might need to clip that for the show. Somebody have that. Illadre, $4.99 super chat. We are not overplaying because of the way we built trenches. Also, we've seen what Kyler can do when his line blocks and a running game gets going. Also, MHJ. I mean, it's this offense, the sum of its parts equals a top 10 offense, Bo, does it not?
It does. And I don't think that we're too much in on the Cardinals offense. I honestly think we might not be in on it enough. You look at all the statistics, you look at the analytics, and it will tell you that when Kyler Murray returned, this was a team that was firmly in the top 10 in most statistical categories. And what they were able to do, especially what we showed you with the run game and establishing that, I mean, it just makes what you want to do offensively so much easier. And also what's going to help take this offense to the next level is just the comfortability for Kyler Murray. He was asked to do so many things that were, foreign to him going into last season where, they changed up his footwork, right? And the rhythm that we hear from Michael Wilson, how it's such an emphasis on timing and Drew Petzing's offense. And that just the slightest, foot ahead or foot behind, step behind can throw off, the rhythm of the passing game. And I think that, with how they played offensively last year, and it was just kind of scratching the surface. And then you add the best option at the X wide receiver spot this offseason and Marvin Harrison Jr., who projects to be a top 5 receiver in this league. I mean, I just really don't think that it's unrealistic to think that they're going to be firmly in the top 10 this season.
I feel like, to your point, one of the biggest factors that's being slept on nationally with this team is the second-year jump for Kyler Murray under Drew Petzing. We saw the second-year jump under Cliff Kingsbury, which was historic for this franchise. We saw the third-year jump where he was an MVP candidate, and then he got hurt, and he had to come back from that. And now he's been healthy this whole offseason. There's no reason to believe if he remains on the field, he's not going to be super productive. We transfer from the offense to the defensive side of the ball, which has many more question marks as it relates to its offensive counterparts, specifically, Bo, from a pass rush standpoint. We've talked about it all offseason. We like what they have, but it's unproven, and so much so that we've even entertained the idea of them adding a veteran or two during training camp. But one veteran for the Arizona Cardinals, and Dennis Gardeck, spoke to you and the rest of the Arizona media. And listen, I'm somebody firmly in the camp where I didn't see a fit with JG. I didn't see a fit with this team. I thought he wouldn't be around. And then he was productive last year. And certainly he ingratiated himself with Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rawls. So I'm at the point, if they sign off on it and they like what he brings to the table, God forbid, nobody's asking me, I'm okay with Dennis Gardeck getting snaps defensively.
Yeah, I mean, if he's part of a rotation, I mean, you really like, the part that Dennis in the role that Dennis the Gardeck can play, right? I mean, we saw him back, was it 2020 or 2021, where he had under like 100 pass rush snaps and he had 7.5 sacks.
Yeah.
You see him with 6.5 sacks last season, and a lot of that came early on, and he emerged as when there was a dire need for it. And I think Dennis Gardeck, role pass rusher, that's a lot easier than like Dennis Gardeck needs to be your primary pass rusher. And I don't think Dennis Gardeck has, like, I'm sure he's got high expectations for himself and wants to continue to get better, but he sees where they're going to get their primary pass rush from. But we had talked to him, previously in the offseason during OTAs, and I had asked him, specifically with Zaven Collins and BJ Ojulari, like how he feels like those two guys can make the jump, playing the pass rush role going into the second season for those guys at the NFL level. He said, Zaven Collins would benefit from just reacting out there instead of just having to like figure out, what he's got to do on any given play and just go out there and use his big athleticism and physicality. Or he feels like BJ Ojulari is explosive, right? He's looking more and more explosive. He continued that, where I asked him, who's somebody that's kind of flying under the radar that's not being talked about enough going into training camp. And he couldn't really kind of get away from the second-year player at LSU. Here's Gardeck talking about BJ Ojulari.
Somebody under the radar. I mean, I've already said BJ, but I'm going to say it again. I think he's going to be a really special player.
I mean, not much to it, but like he kind of described why he thought, Ojulari could make that big jump earlier this offseason. And then also talked to Gardeck, with Zaven and Ojulari expect to make that jump as a group, why he thought the defense as a whole could make a jump in year two under Nick Rallis.
Yeah, it's the second year as a whole. We added a lot of new pieces, but the foundation on what we are and what we're doing is built. So just to be able to grow, having the foundation set, I think it should be a pretty significant and noticeable jump.
I mean, Ojulari, let's stay with the second-year player at LSU for a second. You look back to last year, he walked into an opportunity to take over that pass rush group with not a lot of veterans in his way, and unfortunately for him, got off to a slow start because coming back from injury. I mean, it's the same argument we just made for Kyler Murray. Second year for K1, coming off injury. Second year for BJ Ojulari, coming off injury, now healthy. I think, again, that pop year for guys like Michael Wilson, we can attribute that to BJ Ojulari. The problem is we just didn't see enough last year where you can say, like, oh, yeah, there's an opportunity for him to really take off. We're hopeful, and I'm going to take and hopefully Jonathan Gannon at their word. Like, there's no reason for them to hype up a player if they're not seeing what needs to be done. But like I saw enough of him at LSU. He was a top 50 pick for a reason. He was somebody that I think at the end of the day probably took a little bit of a fall in the draft because of LSU's lack of production defensively. If that had been one of the peak LSU defenses, he's probably a first-round pick that year. But he fell, and it to the Cardinals' benefit. But he was a project last year because of his injury. Now he projects as somebody, and Jonathan Gannon, I trust with this, as a double-digit sack artist for the first time since J.J. Watt in, I think, 2022, and then Chandler Jones before that. Like, you've gone 2 seasons without a guy getting double-digit sacks, and that's not what it used to be in the NFL. But to me, he's got the juice. He's got the explosiveness off the edge. We saw the times last year. But we need more than just sacks. Like, there were games in which, and we've talked about it enough this offseason, Bo, the Cardinals not only couldn't get sacks, they couldn't get pressure. It just looked like the guys that they were putting out there at edge rusher were just getting stonewalled play after play. Yeah. And he's got to add something from a run defending standpoint. But this defense is very much on the breaking point if he does not produce. Like, if he's not there getting you pressures and sacks, what do you have? You don't have a lot of options, unfortunately.
Yeah, you don't. And I think that's why, just by default, they're not knowingly putting a lot of pressure on the shoulders of a second-year guy in BJ Ojulari. It's just, that's the guy that stands out in practice. And it's not like what it was with the quarterback room last year, where it's just like Clayton Tune, in the absence of Kyler Murray and before Joshua Dobbs was acquired, was the only guy that could throw the football. It's not like that, but he was a top 50 pick for a reason. And, we really didn't get a true glimpse of what he is, the type of athlete he is, and the explosiveness right out of the gates, because he dealt with a knee procedure, right after he was drafted. And, he didn't open up training camp healthy, and he was able to get out there in one preseason game and in the finale against the Vikings and looked really behind, and then slowly but surely caught up. Yeah. And then, after week 8, he's able to, add 4.5 sacks to his rookie season and show you some encouraging things, like in the run game and getting after the quarterback. And then we just saw this pass rush group disappear. And that's where the consistency needs to really show up. If you're going to, move forward basically with the status quo with a group that, through 11 weeks last year was in the top half of sacks and TFLs, and then just disappeared and was in the lower third, like actually the last 3 as far as total sacks last season. Like, you need to be able to find it consistently. Was it a victim of not having any interior defensive help? Probably. But at the same time, like a BJ Ojulari emerging in his second season is key for this defense to really kind of beef up their pass rush numbers.
I mean, if you played in the NFC South, if you played historically in the AFC South, or even at times the AFC East, like, you could get away with having an average pass rush. You play in a division with pocket quarterbacks that it's precision timing. And if you don't knock off Brock Purdy and Matthew Stafford and Geno Smith to a lesser extent off their perch, like, they're going to pick you apart.
Yeah.
Like, Jonathan Gannon's defense at the end of the day showed you in Philadelphia it can do that, but it needs horses. Like, you can only, and I think that's what you're alluding to, Bo, that first quarter of the season last year, they manufactured pressure. They manufactured pressure in game 1. They outcoached Ron Rivera, in my opinion, against Washington. Just didn't have the horses offensively to hold that lead. Defensively this year, like, there are going to be games just like we saw last year where Jonathan Gannon outcoaches a coach with more talent, a la Houston and what DeMeco Ryans did, but he's got to have his players also step up when they need to. Like, we can't have outings like we had against Chicago where the pass rush was invisible, and then in the finale against Seattle, like, there were times they got off the field and we're like, how did that even happen? Right. Yeah. And I think it's schematics, and people, listen, I'm hearing behind the scenes, like, Nick Rallis is poised to become a head coach, and people might scoff at that. Like, there are people talking behind the scenes, like, Nick Rallis is one good year away from setting himself up to be a head coach in the NFL. And that's what you want to hear, because it's going to come with success in Arizona. But he and Gannon, and it's cliche, they can't do it by themselves. And I think, again, you equip them with a first-round edge rusher, defensive tackle, and Darius Robinson. You add in a second-round corner. Like, we're giving all the highlights to Marvin Paris because they were the first inaugural first-round picks. But then it's like, okay, you got BJ Ojulari, you got Garrett Williams, right? You've got, a couple rotational defensive backs this year. You got Max Melton. Like, there's enough pieces here to cobble together a top 20 defense. But everything's got to go right, and the linchpin to that is Ojulari. Like, I'm high on Zaven Collins. I see people in the chat giving him love. I think, like, you could get a gritty 8-sack season out of Zaven Collins, and everybody would sign up for that.
Absolutely.
But Zaven Collins cannot be your go-to guy.
Right. Well,
it's got to be BJ Ojulari.
Yeah, and like, you feel a little bit more comfortable when you've got, hey, we got 3 guys that there's expectations of production. And, the guy who talked today, Gardeck, is certainly one of them. And then the 2 kind of young bucks, Zaven Collins, who's got to be hungry going into a contract season after his 5th-year option was declined. I think that him trying to show that, either he's auditioning to stay here or auditioning for the rest of the league. He's got to show that he can be productive at the pass rush, BJ. And then, you look at the rest of this pass rush group, I think, like, Dumakaji, there's no expectations. I think he's, a special teamer, a guy that can help in the run game. Tyreek Smith, we really don't know too much about. Somebody they signed late last season for Ohio State product, and then like a 5th-round pick in Xavier Thomas out of Clemson, like, who wasn't that productive as a big-time high school recruit for a program that's known for its defense. It's got to come from the 3 guys, and then the rest. If you can fill in the gaps, be glue guys, help in the run game, and then get a few sacks here and there. Maybe like if Zaven gets 8 and then you get like 8 combined between Duma KG, if he makes the team, a Jesse Luketa, and a Tyreek Smith, then great, or Xavier Thomas. I mean, that's what it's going to look like.
Cardinals were third to last in total sacks defensively last year. They had 33. Actually, the only teams that were worse, which is crazy, Chicago at 30. Even with
Johnny, they
Montez
had
Sweat.
32 through 11 weeks.
That's nuts. Yeah. I mean, they were on pace. Then the Panthers had 27. If we want them to get to the middle of the pack, as you just alluded to, the middle of the pack last year was anywhere between 45 and 48. So I busted out my phone calculator, and it's about 7.5 for 6 guys.
Yeah.
6 or 7 guys got to get to 7 sacks. So if we're scoring at home, okay, Darius Robinson, BJ Ojulari, Zaven Collins, Dennis Gardeck, Dante Stills maybe throws in 5 and somebody goes or 9 or 10. There's your 5, and then you're piecing together 3 here, 2 here, 3 here from some of your rotational players.
Right.
That's your group. And that's why, as we outline that, it's a scary reality, because a lot of those guys will be doing that for the first time.
Yeah.
That's why you need to pick up the phone and give Yannick Ngakoue a call and just say, hey, man, want to come get 6 sacks? You want to play third down a little bit? You want to help us out? Play 10 snaps a game? Like, hey, we're going to.
Saw him working out. He posted on social media. He's getting back to it. Whatever his injury was. But he's out there working out.
They're going to open up camp. And
here's what changes it, though. Like, if let's say the 2 guys that they've invested draft capital in, heavy draft, top 50 picks, and Darius Robinson and BJ Ojulari, like say BJ Ojulari becomes a 12-sack guy, completely changes what they want to do with the pass rush. And Darius Robinson, say in his rookie season, I don't know if this is unfair, but like say 8-9 sacks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge, because then you got like half your sack production that you're hoping for from 2 guys.
It's crazy. The Ravens led the NFL in sacks last year at 60, which was still 10 less than JG's defense the year before was 70. I mean, like, if I go back through the NFL, no team has had even close to 70 since, I'm going back 2019 to, most year the league leaders for sacks are between 50 to 60. Gannon's unit had 70 that year. Yeah. So again, like there's hope that Rollis and they're going to manufacture pressure. It's going to be a better version of last year. But who's going to take that Trey McBride step of, they have the accolades, the collegiate level, they've got the skill set and the attributes. Now they become a full-fledged star. Let's hope it's BJ Ojulari, Bo.
That'd be huge for him. You talk about Darius Robinson. We talked to Dennis Gardeck about Robinson, and he sees some similarities. We have this clip between Robinson and another former first-round pick.
Yeah, he's a force to be reckoned with for sure. He's come over and trained with me and the guys over at Apex a little bit. He's fun to be around. He just him and Paris have been kind of, and I don't know if it's where I'm at in my career or what, but it's refreshing to get guys that are just like eager to learn and just, hey, I just want to get better. I want to be in the NFL. I want to be a great player. And I get that same vibe. Paris did great last year. And I just get that same kind of vibe. I just want to get better, whatever it is. So it's cool. And I'm hoping we can work together and do some things this year.
That's what you want to hear.
Not by accident.
Mm-hmm.
Same kind of guy. Well, we have Jaden Davis on this show in studio a couple weeks ago saying the Cardinals drafted the same 12 guys every round. Like it's boring. It's cliche, but that's what it's what Pittsburgh does. It's what Baltimore does. It's what these franchises that build through the draft do. Guys that more importantly than anything, love football junkies. We talked to Darius Robinson. He's echoed this. Like, his day is so regimented around football. It's insane. And we know Paris lives in Tempe at the Cardinals facility. Like, he doesn't go home. So
yeah,
not surprised. But again, for a franchise that once used a first round pick on Isaiah Simmons and Robert Kimdichie and even Michael Floyd, these guys that we felt like didn't love football, what football provided to them, it's a breath of fresh air. Like, fan is short for fanatic, but at the same time, it's great to see a player care as much or more than a fan base. Like, we can't want it for you, even if you're making 7-8 figures. And like, you don't feel that with this group. It's like, They don't give two shits about their contracts or anything else right now. It's about winning a championship in Arizona, winning a fucking Super Bowl, something this franchise has never done. And so the passion that emulates from the people in this chat and the fan base that are going to fill up the stadium in Glendale in 2 weeks, like, you have players now that echo your same sentiment each and every year. And it's about damn time.
Well, yeah. And if you're creating it as like a zero-sum thing, like, they will say like the ultimate goal should always be Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But like these guys that get invested into their process and, are just what Gardeck's saying, just laser focused on getting better each and every day. And how that's going to take these guys, like Darius Robinson, who's playing in the SEC, just, you can see physically, as gifted as they come, that if they are able to improve like they will, like, it's just the results are just going to follow. And I think that you see that across the board with all of these players. And that's the new brand of Cardinals players on the roster. It's fantastic. Like that's what's going to help dig this team out of the cellar of their division and put them right back into relevance and contention with these teams that have been, at the forefront of the NFC West for far too long.
I was talking to somebody recently who's a diehard Missouri Tigers fan. And number one, they said that was the best Missouri team that they've had in 10 plus years, right? They were an irrelevant program, and their best player, the glue guy on that defense, was Darius Robinson. And so, like, there is going to be shock and awe in the state of Missouri if Darius Robinson is not a high-end performing NFL player. Like, we talk about it, like, his floor is exceptionally high, and that's why you take him there. And then, of course, the promise of having somebody that reminds you of a Darnell Dockett-esque type of prospect, somebody that can play all over your defensive line, somebody that's got a nonstop motor, and then, oh, by the way, is an elite human being. Like, again, just they're checking all the boxes. We're checking all the boxes with our friends at Chicken and Pickle, and I'm calling out my co-host, who he and I are both signed up for the doubles tournament, Chicken and Pickle. Coming up here at the Glendale location. Join PHNX for our 2024 Summer Pickleball Tournament. You will not want to miss this. In just a couple of weeks, we are going to be out there grinding on a Saturday morning. I don't know, Bo, are you in the beginners tournament or are you in the intermediate tournurement? I need to clarify something with you.
Come on.
I just want to make sure.
You think I'm checking in beginner status? No way. I've got me and my partner, my wife, we're going to go out there and we're going to win a couple games, including one over Johnny and his partner in the pickleball tournament. That, look, all the proceeds, it's fantastic. It goes to a great cause, the State 48 Foundation. So it's not going to PHNX. It's going to, those in need. All the proceeds go to the State 48 Foundation. It's Saturday, July 27th from 9 to 12. So this is not like an all-day event. Just get in, get out, have a great time. Hang with us. Watch Johnny get beaten down. Damon, who you playing with?
I think I'm going to play with Danielle.
Okay, good.
I'm feeling pretty good about that.
I heard there was on the rumor mill that Damon was actually, I think Schefter had tweeted out that you were thinking about pairing up with Totri from PHNX Sundays. That would have been a tremendous mistake. I'm glad that you pivoted to Danielle.
There were some talks.
Yeah.
There were some talks.
I'm glad that those talks didn't go anywhere. You didn't sign up with Totri because that would have been a disaster. So I'm pulling out for Damon, double D, Damon and Danielle. That's probably gonna be second on the rankings as far as the teams of this show go.
I'm bringing in a ringer.
Yeah,
from the Midwest, who's already made his presence known. Fair or not, on the Twitter streets in my
he came dropped into my replies, was talking some crap, and
my mid to late 60s father plays pickleball multiple times a week, maybe too much pickleball, and he texted me about a month ago, and he goes, "We're doing this tournament." And I'm like, "All right, let's do it." And so we are in it. We're in it to win it against
Mr. Venerable seems like he might be about that business.
Yeah, but the problem is he
is much better than I am.
Huge liability as far as his
oh,
partner.
absolutely. It's a 1-on-2 game.
But first of all, after 2 weeks ago and my triumphant victory at the 9-9-9 challenge, I would think I would get a little slack with pickleball, especially because I placed in our PHNX sports outing a couple of years ago. But that's fine. Just throw me under the bus. That's fine.
Yeah. Look, it is fine. And look, you're going to have a great time. Chicken and Pickle out there in the shadow of State Farm Stadium. It's a great cause. Get on the action. It's going to be great food. It's going to be great fun. And it's going to be an incredible atmosphere. Come join up. Don't delay. It's just $40. Get you and a partner in for $40. It goes to the State 48 Foundation. Watch Johnny just embarrass himself. He'll get back on the track, trending down with Chicken and Pickle. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to gear up. I'm going to load up on some Gatorades at Circle K. Hopefully there's going to be a great deal. There often is by just being a member of the inner circle. They've got great deals on America's Thirst Shop. You get into the convenience store and you can load up Polar Pops, Frosters right now. Any size Froster or Polar Pop coming in that foam cup, 79 cents. It's unreal. It's the best deal of the summer, especially when we're reaching record high temps. You want to cool off at America's Thirst Shop. And hey, why don't you save on gas while you're doing it? It saved our sweet, precious Damon dog on the road yesterday or on Sunday. It was like a beacon in the desert as he pulled in and filled up his gas tank that was pretty much bone dry. And he didn't break the bank while he did it because, of course, Circle K has the most competitive gas prices. And why not save at the pump even more so by becoming a member of the inner circle? 25 cents per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups, 3 cents after that, get to 5 cents as you hit another echelon of the membership. It's elite. Download the Circle K app in the App Store, and of course, check out CircleK.com for more info.
This is not how I know I'm raising my son right, is that he wants to have his buddies over. He's 9 years old. He wants to do a sleepover. He's not allowed to have soda. He had a soda at Bo's son's birthday party for the first time. He had a mini Coke. And he was like loving life. And I told him, I said, when you have a sleepover at our house, if it's all right with the other parents, we can have some soda on hand. He goes, you know what? We could just go to Circle K for 79 cents and I can get one of those Froster things. And I'm like, damn it, you're right. We're going to do that. So he's a member of the inner circle by association. What's that?
Your son's pretty business savvy.
He is a used car salesman in a 9-year-old's body.
Yeah.
He's already pushing me to pre-order this NCAA football game that comes out. And then he's like, and then remember Madden comes out in August. So yeah, I'm a big time sucker for sure.
Yeah. He's got you in his pocket. No doubt about it.
Hit that like on this video. We want you as a part of our, trip to Miami this fall via our friends at True Fan Travel. We're going to be in our pocket. We're going to be in our bag over the course of a 4-day event. I'm bringing my wife. Hopefully Bo's wife can attend, and hopefully Damon finds a wife with our friends at True Fan Travel. They're not responsible for the latter part of that, but they are responsible for putting together the premier package at not a premium price, starting at just $12.99 over 4 days as the Arizona Cardinals and PHNX Cardinals travels to South Beach. We've got a premium hotel on Hollywood Beach, poolside, oceanside, and then we're going to take in the Cardinal game. But before we do that, how about a booze cruise, an alumni event, transportation to and from the airport, a tailgate event, and then, of course, the coup de grace, cards at Dolphins. I cannot wait. Sign up now. Payment plans are available. If you have any questions, our DMs are wide open. We can't wait to see you, Bo, in South Beach.
Yeah, it's going to be an unbelievable time. It's going to be the best event that we've ever done as a group here at PHNX. I was looking at a couple of the people that have already signed up for this event, and I want to give them a shout out. Okay. But you don't want to miss out on what's going on in Miami. We already saw they had a celebrity in Miami today earlier. Might be maybe somebody we identify as Damon's potential.
We have a lead.
Yeah, I think we've got our first lead of Damon wifing up. But October 25th through 28th, check out True Fan Travel. And of course, go phnx.com/events for more details.
Damon, our resident U of A Wildcat on this show, as I'm scouring Twitter during this show to retweet, promote the show live, like a good soldier, I just came across a horrifying image of our sweet baby Mike Luke shoving Del Taco in the face of ASU head coach Kenny Dillingham at 12 Media Day. Have you guys seen this clip?
Yeah, I had to give it a retweet. Dillingham out there, leading the charge for ASU, and there's Mike Luke.
He got him a burger too.
Yeah, where did he get it from?
What's the context for that?
Mike Luke is a big Del Taco burger fan, which I think he's the only one.
He's earned it.
Yeah, and I don't know how it fits in with Kenny Dillingham, but he did kind of force feed him a bite of the burger.
I just go on Twitter. He's like, "Here, Kenny, to eat this burger from Del Taco."
Yeah,
Kenny looking sharp, and
he's a special man, Mike Luke.
Yeah, so I mentioned I wanted to shout out the people already set to go to Miami with us: Tony and Megan, Marcus, George, Daniel, Alec, Ryan, Melanie. Just a few of those who got in early to set their spot up to join us as the Cards take on the Dolphins, and that's like gonna take a back seat to all the festivities that we're gonna have going on from the 25th to the 28th.
Yeah, it's we are, almost single digits away from the start of what it feels like going to be a special season for the Arizona Cardinals, and that is going to be right around the midpoint of the year, and hopefully this team is going to be kicking it into high gear. We're in high. Well, how about this next major event for PHNX Hunter? Like the 9-9-9 challenge is going to be a season of The Bachelor starring Damon Dog. How about that? I'd sign up for that. I'd watch that programming.
Yeah. Do you accept this rose? Is he going to be handing out roses, or is he going to be handing out glizzies, or what is it going to be?
Handing out Marv jerseys. Do you accept?
Yeah, I was thinking something hold the line related.
There you go.
We've had quite the
shield.
offseason.
A shield so you can get into formation.
Mm-hmm.
That feels like we talked about last season, like it was just yesterday. The hold the line draft season feels like it was about 20 years ago. that entire draft season, we'll never do anything like that again.
No.
Hopefully this team is picking far, far away from the top 10, but we're inching ever so closer to the start of the regular season. It continues tomorrow.
It longer. It made us, we were at odds a lot during that time.
Yeah.
But I think
feel
at the end of
closer
the day,
to everybody but you, coincidentally enough.
Yeah. Well, sometimes that happens, and we had to focus our attention elsewhere. And maybe we drifted apart, but at the same time, as a group, we all kind of came together.
Yeah, like the Cardinals, you and I have a lot of rebuilding to do, and it continues this offseason. Ahead of training camp, kicking off July 23rd. We will be there. In the meantime, subscribe to PHNX Sports here on YouTube. Ring that bell for notifications. Bust out your smartphone, your mobile device. Go to your podcast feed. Type in PHNX Cardinals. Give us a follow. We got exclusive content every week on that app. Leave us a 5-star review. Again, our continuation of position groups previews continues tomorrow. How about some offensive linemen? Let's talk about the big heavies. In the meantime, keeping it real. Bo Brack, Damon Dog. I'm Johnny Venerable. Peace. Till tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.